From homeless to millionaire, a black man's journey inspiring Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Rashid's story kicked off under the ruthless desert sun, a place where dreams often melted like heat on sand. But from those blistering, lonely streets came a man who clawed his way out of homelessness, rising fast enough to catch the eyes of two of the world's most powerful figures, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Strange, right? What could possibly link a Middle Eastern billionaire, a tech mogul, and a former US president all tangled in one story? The whispers started when Rashid's business empire exploded, built from nothing but grit and a secret only he seemed to know. Rumor had it, he invented something that could change the energy game forever. Something Elon Musk wanted desperately to steal. Meanwhile, Trump was rumored to be involved behind the scenes, a shadow puppeteer, pulling strings nobody fully understood. Yet beneath the glitz and the headlines, there was another story. One more purse. The desert wind howled outside the towering glass walls of Rashid's palace-like office as his hands trembled, clutching a folded note from Adam. His heart pounded. A tight, sizzling pressure filled his chest, the burden of secrets heavier than the searing heat outside. And just when Rashid thought he could handle the storm, whispers in the corporate shadows grew louder. Dark figures, ghostly and cold, warned them to stop digging. Warnings slipped into threats. Security cameras blinked. The fine line between friend and foe blurred like heat haze on asphalt. Then, bam! The world's renewal dreams collided with ruthless ambition. Elon Musk's sly moves against Rashid's energy empire lit up the front pages. But under the flashy headlines, a deadly game was underway. Fathers and sons caught in the middle, not just of business wars, but of lives being stripped bare. Rashid's powerful facade crumbled. There was fear now, a raw, ugly thing. Fear for his son's freedom, fear of losing everything he'd built. Fear of the unknown waiting to crush them both. His gaze flickered with pain and love, twisting like desert lightning across a stormy sky. But here's the twist, the one nobody saw coming. Adam's experiment wasn't just a threat to the industry. It was a threat to the very truth Rashid thought he lived by. Suddenly, everything shattered. The man who built an empire under a ruthless sun now had to fight shadows darker than the desert night and truths deeper than any family wounds. Will Rashid save Adam? Can he hold on to his empire while dodging deadly enemies and unmasking secrets? Or will the blazing desert burn it all to ash? His fortune, his family, his life. The clock ticks. The desert waits, and the hidden truth edges closer to the surface. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Rashid's heart raced like a wild stallion. pounding against his chest as he unfolded Adam's note. The words seemed to set off sparks in his mind, a cacophony of emotions blurring into raw fear and confusion. The tension in that sprawling office thickened, wrapping around him like the desert heat. Suddenly, a loud crash resonated from the hallway. The sound ripped through the silence like a bolt of lightning. Rashid's muscles tensed at the unexpected intrusion. In an instant, the door flung open and a figure stumbled into the room, breathless, wild-eyed, disheveled. It was one of Rashid's trusted employees, panic etched across his face. "Sir, you need to see this. It's Adam. The experiment. The video." Each word came out in frantic gasps as he struggled to catch his breath. Rashid felt a chill slither down his spine when he heard his son's name. "What about Adam? What's happened?" His voice was firm, but inside, a storm was brewing. He feared the worst. They found him near the lab. There's footage. He didn't just discover something. He went live, showed everything. The employee's eyes widened, terror streaking across his features. Rashid's pulse quickened. "What do you mean, everything?" Anger, confusion, dread whirlo venide, mixing with the foreboding sensation growing in the pit of his stomach. Before the employee could respond, a loud noise erupted from outside, like gunshots ringing out in the stillness. Rashid's eyes darted to the window. A swarm of people gathered near the gates of his empire, shouting, waving their phones in the air. "What are they doing?" he muttered, heart racing. The whispers he'd overheard in board meetings now echoed in his mind. Dissent, anger, fear of the secrets buried too deep to ignore. "Sir, it's going viral," the employee shouted. They saw Adam's live stream. He's naming names. This isn't just about energy. It's about corruption, politics, the truth you built everything on. Rashid felt the ground beneath him tremble as his world threatened to implode. The empire he had fought to build was teetering on the edge of collapse. The truth, whatever it was, hung like a noose over his family. "Get security! Lock down the building!" His voice was thunderous, quaking with desperation. He was a lion cornered, protecting his pride, but he could feel the walls closing in. As he turned back to the window, his breath caught in his throat. He couldn't fathom the chaos outside. It was a storm of anger and betrayal, faces twisted in outrage. But among them, he spotted someone familiar, someone who should have been in his corner. It was his former partner, and Adam's mentor. The man whose approval Rashid had chased for years now stood front and center, leading the charge against him. "Why?" Rashid whispered, crushed under the weight of betrayal. Just then the employee shouted again, voice tinged with dread. "Sir, Adam's not safe. If they find out what he's staging—" Staging? Rashid's heart dropped. He thought he knew his son, but a new, terrifying version of Adam was emerging. One that threatened to unravel not just their family, but everything Rashid held dear. Rashid felt the walls closing in, fear creeping up like a thief in the night. Could Adam really be the architect of his own destruction? Could the secrets and lies, the very foundation of Rashid's empire, be pulled from under his feet by the son he thought he knew? Time was slipping. He had to act. He had to break through the chaos, protect his son, and maybe, just maybe, uncover the truth before it consumed them both. But as he stepped forward, hesitation gripped him. What if the real threat wasn't outside, but someone far closer, someone he loved more than himself? The clock was ticking, and the desert wind howled louder than ever. Rashid needed answers, and fast. But deep down, he knew the truth would forever change everything, if he could survive it. Rashid's heart raced. The note from Adam felt like a wildfire at his fingertips, smoldering with potential chaos. He glanced out the tall windows, the brilliant sun glaring, as if mocking his fears. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped in, cloaked in shadow. It was his longtime advisor, Amir, a man he had trusted with his life. "Rashid, we need to talk," Amir said, urgency pouring from his voice. "It's about Adam." Before Rashid could respond, the air shifted. A loud crash echoed through the halls, rattling the glass walls of his palace. The ground trembled beneath Rashid's feet. Was it an earthquake or something worse? Panic punctured the room. Rashid and Amir rushed to the window just in time to see a black SUV speeding away. A flock of birds took flight above. A heartbeat of chaos above the triggered silence. Rashid's stomach twisted. "Who was that?" Rashid shouted. The tension in his voice taut as a snapped string. "I don't know," Amir replied, eyes wide. "But the rumors." A deep, resonant thud echoed. This time it wasn't just a crash. It sounded like a heavy door slamming shut. A chill wound through Rashid. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Then the phone buzzed violently on his desk, cutting through the taut air. Rashid snatched it up, heart pounding. It was Adam's name glaring on the screen. The last person he expected to hear from. But just as he hit answer, the call abruptly dropped. Rashid's breath caught. "Adam?" he yelled into the dead line. Only silence, stark and unsettling. "What's happening?" Suddenly, Amir's phone lit up with an alarming message. "Look!" he gasped, hands trembling. As Rashid leaned in, his eyes scanned the screen, but the words didn't make sense. "The truth, buried in the lab. It's bigger than you think, Dad." "What lab?" Rashid murmured, confusion tightening his chest. Before Amir could respond, the office doors flew open again, and a familiar voice stormed in. Rashid's brother, Samir. His face was lined with something darker than fear. "Rashid, I shouldn't have come." "Why didn't you tell me?" Rashid interrupted, lips pressing together tightly. "I need to know what's going on. Adam, he's not just your son," Samir said, voice lowering to a near whisper. A crack in the calm surface of Rashid's world, water breaking free from a dam. Then came the explosive punch to reality. "He's adopted," Samir hissed, the words slicing through the air like glass. Rashid staggered back, gripping the desk for support. The empire he built, the son he thought he knew, everything he held close crumbled from within. "No, that can't be true." But Samir wouldn't back down. "I'm sorry. We all thought you were protecting him. There were secrets, things you couldn't see." Rashid's vision blurred. Shadows danced around him. Adam's identity, Rashid's foundation, all the love and pride he locked away. How could it mean so little now? The room spun as whispers filled the air. Outside, the desert winds grew wild, clawing at the windows. Rashid stared at his brother, anger igniting his veins, yet mixing with heartbreak. "What did you do?" he whispered, crushed beneath the weight of betrayal. Then his phone buzzed again, this time with a video call from Adam, the screen illuminating his father's dark world. Rashid hesitated. A burning question hung in the air. Who was Adam really? Rashid took a deep breath, his heart pounding in sync with the chaos around him. The truth now felt closer, yet impossibly distant. As he hit accept, dread loomed heavier than the scorching desert sun. "Father," Adam's voice was shaky, and the storm was just beginning. Everything was about to change. Adam's voice trembled through the phone, each syllable heavy with tension. Rashid felt panic claw at his throat, constricting his voice as he focused on his son's face on the screen. Adam looked different, disheveled, eyes wide yet fierce. "Where are you? What's happening?" Rashid needed answers, needed to know why chaos erupted around him. "There's no time." Adam's breath came in short bursts. "I made a mistake, something I found at the lab." Then a loud crash echoed beyond the glass, drowning out Adam's voice. Rashid's gaze snapped to the door as heavy footsteps approached. Something dark loomed, shadowy figures moving quickly, shattering the calm outside as renewed shouts filled the air. "Stay back!" a voice shouted. "Lock it down! We need to secure the perimeter!" "Adam!" Rashid blurted out, feeling the walls of his empire squeezing tighter. "What did you find?" But before Adam could answer, the screen flashed white. A figure rushed into view, desperately attempting to grab the phone. Rashid's heart lurched. It was one of Adam's lab partners, hands trembling, face contorted with fear. "Sir, you have to listen!" she cried, breathless. "They're coming for him. Adam's in danger. He knows too much." Danger? Rashid's mind raced, juggling thoughts of betrayal, secrets, and a son he barely understood. "What do you mean?"
Och, Rashid's breath hitched. The desert? In a flash, Amir grabbed his arm. "We have to go find him, now!" But before Rashid could respond, a deafening explosion rocked the building, shattering glass and sending shards flying through the air like deadly rain. The roar filled his ears, drowning out everything else. A whirlwind of chaos and smoke filled the space where his son once sought safety. "Rashid!" Amir shouted, pulling him back as they ducked under the desk. Voices screaming outside, chaos escalating. The walls trembled around them, and the foundations of everything Rashid built seemed to crumble apart. When the noise subsided, silence enveloped them, thick and heavy. Rashid's heart raced. Uncertainty gripped him like a vice. He crawled to the window, gasping for breath. Outside, flames danced through the wreckage, illuminating the panic-stricken faces of his employees, fear etched across every pair of eyes. His empire, his life, was unraveling. Then he caught a glimpse of something on the ground below, a faint glimmer. It was a device, shimmering among the rubble. Rashid squinted, inching closer, and a sudden realization hit him like a punch to the gut. It had Adam's logo on it, the very one he had designed. Just then, a voice echoed from behind. "Rashid, it's not what you think." Rashid turned, his brother Samir standing in the shadows, face pale, voice quaking. "The truth is more dangerous than you understand. You have to listen to me.
Why didn't you tell me? Rashid's voice broke, confusion swirling like a storm. Because, Samir swallowed, biting down on fear. Because Adam isn't who you think he is. He's a part of something bigger. Something I tried to protect you from. Rashid couldn't process the words. He felt every emotion collide, but before he could respond, Samir's phone buzzed violently. A notification flashed across the screen, drawing their attention. It read, "They've released the footage!" Shh! Adam showed everything. Rashid's world tilted, reality spinning uncontrollably. Everything he built, everything he loved, was suddenly a tangled web of lies and duplicity. What is happening? He nearly screamed, desperation clawing at his chest. Samir's eyes filled with tears. You need to choose, Rashid. Family or empire? The weight of Samir's words crushed Rashid. With the desert winds howling outside, he realized it was more than just Adam he had to save. It was everything. Rashid's heart thundered in his chest, the note from Adam crumpling beneath his fingers. The room felt stifling, and the shadows seemed to twist with menace. He took a deep breath, trying to push away the claustrophobic weight of his thoughts. Secrets had a way of burrowing deep, and the air crackled with a tension he couldn't shake. Before he could catch his breath, a buzzing noise cut through the silence. His phone lit up. It was a message from Adam. "Dad, you need to see this. Come home now." Panic wrapped around Rashid's chest like a vice. Adam had always been a bit of a recluse, hiding in his world of research, tinkering with ideas that never quite made sense. But the urgency in that message sent a chill down his spine. Rashid snatched his coat and bolted from his office, the polished floors reflecting his hurried footsteps. Each step echoed like a drum, reminding him of the stakes. He raced through the corridors of his empire, people parting like the Red Sea, faces laced with curiosity. Traffic slowed to a crawl, every minute stretching painfully. Rashid could feel the pounding in his head, the headache building. Adam had sounded desperate, and that wasn't like him. He'd always been the calm one amidst chaos, the thinker. But now, something was very wrong. When Rashid finally burst through the door of his sprawling home, the walls felt oppressive, heavy with unspoken fears. "Adam," he called, his voice shaky. Silence answered back, thick and heavy. He sprinted down the corridor, flinging open the door to Adam's makeshift lab. The room was in chaos, papers scattered on the floor, wires snaking across the desk, equipment overturned. "Adam!" Panic seeped into his voice, and then he saw it. A small screen glowing ominously in the flickering light. It showed a video, a live feed. Rashid's heart stopped as he squinted at the image. There was Adam, bound to a chair, eyes wide with terror. "Dad, help me!" His son's voice was raw, filled with desperation. A figure loomed behind him, dark and menacing. Rashid took a step back, shock hitting him like a punch to the gut. The figure reached out, and Adam squirmed in fear. "Who are you?" Rashid shouted. But the figure only smirked, and in that moment, Rashid's world tilted on its axis. A chilling laugh echoed in the room. "You really thought you could build an empire without paying the price?" It was a voice Rashid recognized, one he once trusted. He felt bile rise in his throat as the truth dawned on him. It was David, his old partner, the one he had left behind when he escaped poverty. "I've been waiting for this moment, Rashid. Your empire will crumble, and Adam will be the key." Shock coursed through him, a burst of pain and betrayal that wrapped around his heart like barbed wire. "You set this up all these years." Rashid's mind raced. Adam, the secret experiment, the looming threats. It all tied back to this moment. His empire, his family, everything he had built, now seemed at risk from a ghost of the past. "I tell you where the secrets lie, Rashid, but first you'll need to make a choice. Your son or your empire." The figure's eyes glinted with malice. A predator savoring the hunt. Rashid's breath quickened. He was in the darkest alley of his life, and the walls were closing in. Would he trade his empire for his son? What would that even mean? The desert stormed outside, but inside, it was a tempest of betrayal and fear. The sun set, casting long shadows that stretched across his soul. So much hung in the balance. Time ticked on. Rashid's world was about to shatter, and he stood at the heart of it, frightened yet determined to find a way through the darkness. Would he save Adam in time, or was the price of his success far greater than he had ever imagined? The clock ticked louder, pounding in Rashid's ears as he unfolded Adam's note, his hands shaking like leaves in a storm. The words blurred, and reality twisted into a shadowy maze. What secret had Adam hidden for so long? His heart raced as he read. "It's not just an experiment, Dad. It's about us." The tremble in his voice echoed the uncertainty in his mind, a fear he had never shown. Suddenly, a loud crash broke the heavy silence. The glass walls of the office vibrated as if trembling under pressure. Rashid spun around, adrenaline flooding his veins. Outside, a crowd had gathered, their murmurs rising like a cacophony of urgent whispers. Something was wrong. He stormed toward the balcony, anxiety gripping him tight. Through the glass, he saw chaos. A man lay sprawled on the pavement below, surrounded by frantic figures. Rashid's heart sank. It was Adam, his son's face pale against the harsh concrete. A thin line of blood trailed from his brow, and the crowd gasped collectively. An awful, sharp intake of breath that hung in the air like a dark cloud. Rashid rushed outside, feet pounding against the marble floor. But he felt like he was wading through quicksand. As he dove into the chaos, two figures stepped forward. A man in a black suit and an older gentleman with a familiar face that sent a chill down Rashid's spine. His heart cracked open with dread. "Stay back!" shouted the man in the suit, a glint of authority in his eyes. But Rashid didn't hear him. Fear surged through his chest like a raging torrent. Kneeling by his son, Rashid's hands trembled as he cradled Adam's head. "What happened?" he rasped, panic clawing at his throat. Adam's eyelids fluttered, and he gasped for breath, a hollow sound that twisted Rashid's insides. "Didn't want you to find out this way," Adam croaked. "The experiment, it reveals everything." "What do you mean?" Rashid's voice cracked, fear pooling in his stomach. Then a gunshot rang out, a sharp, echoing crack that silenced the murmurs. Everyone turned, eyes wide with shock. The man in the suit fell, blood blooming on his chest. Rashid's breath caught. Who was this man, and why was he shot? Screams erupted as the panic spiraled. Rashid stood frozen. "Dad," Adam coughed, voice weak but insistent. I uncovered who funds your empire. They're not who you think. A pulsating silence enveloped them, thick as the desert night. Rashid felt a chill run through him. This was bigger than him, bigger than his dreams. Shadows danced in the corners of his vision, and the weight of unimaginable truths began to crush him. Then, with a final shudder, Adam's eyes closed. Rashid's heart dropped, and the world around him faded into a blur. The elegant skyscrapers, the crowds, it all felt distant, like a fading dream. Beneath the chaos, a soft voice hummed through Rashid's mind, questioning everything he had ever known. Who was he really? What had he built? Suddenly the ground shook beneath him, a rupture in his foundation. Each breath felt heavier, as if inhaling sand. Rashid glanced at the lifeless body on the ground. The secret dance between friend and foe twisted tighter, and he realized everything was at stake. As sirens began to wail, piercing through the chaos, a dark figure crept away into the shadows, just out of sight. The fear gnawed at him. This was far from over. What game had he and Adam stumbled into, and how deep did the betrayal run? Each second stretched on, the truth lurking just out of reach, poised to explode and reshape everything they had ever known. The air grew thick with tension as Rashid's heart raced inside his chest. He fingered the note again. Adam's handwriting felt like a jolt of electricity under his fingertips. The implications of Adam's experiment swirled in his mind like a dust storm, choking him. What was Adam hiding? Then the ground shook, not metaphorically but literally. The vibration jolted Rashid from his thoughts, rattling the glass walls of his office. Alarms blared, echoing through the palace-like space. The sound was a siren's wail, sending a wave of panic that gripped Rashid's gut. He rushed to the window, his breath hitching. From his perch, he could see chaos unfold below, people scattering like leaves before a storm. Then he saw it, a plume of dust rising ominously at the edge of his property. No, not just dust. It was smoke and flames licking up from a corner of the expansive grounds. His heart sank. "Get the security team!" he shouted, urgency clawing at his throat as he tore through the door. Rashid dashed down the hallway, past his staff, who were frozen, wide-eyed, uncertainty etched on their faces. He burst into the control room, where screens flickered wildly, highlighting the growing inferno. Confusion filled the air. Panic spreading, contagious, as the fire roared louder than any voice. "Get a helicopter!" he barked, to no one in particular. But just as they scrambled to respond, a message came through. It was Graham, his head of security, white as a ghost, eyes wild. "Rashid, the fire. It started near the lab, Adam's lab." Rashid's stomach churned. The lab. Adam's secretive work had taken all his spare time, but never in his wildest dreams did he think it would lead to this. What if something from that lab was now fueling the fire? Fear clawed at him again. Each second felt like an eternity as Rashid sprinted toward the back of the property, his thoughts a frenzied mess. Had Adam known this could happen? Was this a misstep? Or was something darker at play? His mind raced to the whispers he'd heard about Adam's big breakthrough. What if it was more than just revolutionary energy tech? What if it was dangerous? Rashid's chest tightened. Was he losing everything? He pushed harder, faster, fighting against mounting dread. And then, dark figures emerged, moving swiftly in the shadows. Men in suits, faces hidden, each step deliberate and sinister. Rashid froze, confusion turning to dread. What were they doing here? Who were they? Stay back, he yelled, but they advanced, determination etched on their faces. Suddenly, a deafening explosion erupted from the lab, shaking the very ground beneath him. Windows shattered, flames erupted, and heat blasted towards him. Rashid fell back, shields of fear flooding his mind. In that moment, everything he valued felt like it could vanish. But as he stared into the blazing chaos, a figure emerged from the flames. It was Adam, silhouetted against the inferno. Rage boiled within Rashid. "What have you done?" he screamed, but Adam didn't respond. He looked almost calm. Then, in a voice barely above the crackle of fire, Adam spoke words that would change everything. "Dad, you have to understand, this fire was necessary. The world needs to know the truth." Shocked gasps filled the space around them. Truth? What truth? Rashid's mind reeled as Adam stepped forward, revealing a device in his hands, a small, glowing orb. "What is that?" Rashid's voice trembled. "It's the key," Adam replied, eyes fierce. "To everything, but it could destroy your empire and our family. You need to choose." The air thickened with dread as Rashid realized, in that instant, the shadows around them were tightening, pulling them into a darkness neither father nor son could escape. Time ticked away, and all Rashid could feel was the heat and the weight of choices crashing down like a desert storm. Rashid's heart thundered, the fiery glow of the lab casting shadows that danced around them. Adam cradled something fragile in his hands, eyes wide with urgency. "You need to choose, Dad. This could change everything." But before Rashid could reply, he felt it, the ground trembling beneath them, almost like a heartbeat of chaos. The flames roared, a fierce tide rising, threatening to consume them. Rashid's instincts kicked in. He pushed forward, gripping Adam's shoulders. "What did you find? What's the truth about this?" Adam opened his mouth to speak, but suddenly a dark shadow loomed behind him, blocking the light. Rashid turned, instincts screaming at him. It was David, his old partner, stepping forward, face twisted in a mocking smile. The madness of the moment blurred his vision. "You always were so naive, Rashid. You thought you could escape a past? Stay away from him." Rage ignited within Rashid as he moved protectively in front of Adam. "What do you want, David?" David just chuckled, a sound both familiar and foreign. "The truth, my friend. The truth you've tried to bury. Adam, dear boy, you aren't who you think you are." Rashid blinked, confusion surging through him. "What are you talking about?" Then came the bombshell, slicing through the air like a dagger. "Adam is my son, not yours." Rashid's entire world shifted, spinning like a whirlwind. He staggered back, the words echoing in his mind. "What? That can't be true, isn't it?" David pressed, his eyes gleaming. "You thought adopting him would shield him from his true heritage? But the truth is a beast that cannot be caged." Adam's expression flickered between rage and hurt. "You're lying!" "No, Adam. Your father never told you about your real past, did he?" David sneered, stepping forward, his shadow creeping closer. "You belong to a legacy much larger than his little empire." Rashid's mind whirled. Stop it! A father wouldn't do this! But David waved an impatient hand, dismissing Rashid's words. You built a life on lies, and now it's time for the truth to break free. Before Rashid could react, a loud explosion rattled the ground again, snapping him back to reality. But this time, the flames licking at the edge of the lab weren't just from the fire. They exploded with a burst of brilliant blue light, blinding them momentarily. Rashid shielded his eyes, feeling heat radiate against his skin. In the chaos, he heard Adam scream, but it wasn't a scream of fear. It was a roar of liberation. When Rashid looked back, Adam was standing, the glowing orb pulsing in his hands, radiating energy that felt electric. Dad, it's true! Adam shouted over the cacophony. I meant to lead, not just follow. Then everything shattered. With a crack like thunder, a wave of energy surged from the orb, knocking everyone off their feet. Rashid landed hard, gasping as confusion erupted around him. The air crackled with electricity, and the once familiar faces of his loyal employees turned to expressions of fear and awe. As Rashid struggled to his feet, he saw the flames shift and twist, almost as if they were alive, sparking into colors he couldn't comprehend. Shadows morphed and danced. These weren't just flames. They were symbols of everything he had built crumbling before him. The crowd gasped, a ripple of shock passing through them like a shock wave. Your empire will fall, Rashid. David's voice came again, almost drowned out by the chaos. And just like that, a new figure emerged from the leaping flames. A woman, face obscured in smoke, stepping forward with an aura that radiated power. It's time to reveal the lost truths. Rashid froze, every ounce of terror and wonder coursing through his veins. A legacy, T. The flickering lights painted a scene of dread and hope, chaos and clarity. What hidden truth had Adam stumbled upon? What did this woman know? As she raised her hand towards the orb, silence fell. The truth was about to be unleashed in a way Rashid never imagined. Before he could grasp what was happening, the energy surged again. Rashid's reality spiraled into uncertainty as the shadows shifted. And everything he cherished threatened to flip upside down. Each breath felt like a countdown. Ready or not, they were on the brink of something monumental, yet terrifying. What would they find when the veil was finally lifted? The energy pulsed, crackling in the air like static before a storm. Rashid stood frozen, the world around him shifting as the glowing orb in Adam's hands warped reality. Shadows flickered and twisted, dancing in the overwhelming heat of the inferno that consumed the lab. Dad, listen to me! Adam shouted through the chaos, gripping the orb tightly. This is bigger than both of us. His eyes burned with determination, yet the fear beneath them cut Rashid to the core. Just as Rashid started to process Adam's words, that dark figure, David, stepped closer, smirking, feeding off the chaos. You see, Rashid? You thought you controlled everything. But this... He gestured toward Adam, eyes gleaming with malice. This is just the beginning. Before Rashid could react, a thunderous bang echoed through the air, shaking the ground once more. The sky darkened. Not from smoke, but from something else, something unfathomable. Rashid's breath caught as he looked up, his pulse racing. Then came the impossible. A massive object streaked across the sky, trailing smoke like a comet crashing toward them. The earth trembled as it landed with a spine-chilling thud, sending shockwaves through the ground. Rashid stumbled, eyes wide in disbelief. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath sharp enough to cut through the confusion. The light from Adam's orb flickered ominously, responding to the new chaos. The object began to unfold, revealing a structure that shimmered in and out of view. A sleek metallic craft, something straight out of a science fiction movie. Rashid's heart sank. What was happening? Was this real? He blinked, but there was no denying it. Amidst the flames, this craft hummed to life, glowing with an eerie luminescence. Figures emerged, not from the craft, but from the shadows that had engulfed the area. Faces he didn't recognize, yet something about them was hauntingly familiar. "Dad!" Adam's voice trembled as he stepped back, awe mixing with terror. I didn't expect this." "What is happening?" Rashid demanded, panic seeping through his resolve. The fire crackled, reflecting in Adam's frightened eyes. From the lead figure, a voice resonated, deep and unsettling. "The time has come for truths long buried." "Rashid, you've opened a door." Rashid's skin prickled. "What door? Who are you?" "Your past is not what you think. You've been chosen, Rashid. Your empire was built on the remains of what was lost, a legacy hidden even from you." Adam's hand trembled, and the orb flickered violently, sending pulses of energy all around them. With each beat, Rashid felt history clawing at his back. Then, without warning, another figure stepped forward. The woman from the flames, her rage boiling beneath a calm exterior. "You think you're ready for this? You think you know your family?" A cold chill slithered down Rashid's spine. "What do you mean?" "Adam is not just special," she stated, her eyes glinting with a mix of anger and sorrow. "He's the last link to a bloodline that should have never been severed, a legacy that was meant to rise above. The truth is, you are his greatest enemy, Rashid." The truth hit like a wave, crashing over him. Rashid staggered, his mind racing with disbelief. Adam's fingers slipped, the orb clattering to the ground as the energy surged violently. The crowd gasped, confusion and fear swirling into a storm. Darkness enveloped them as the orb pulsed one last time. The light exploded, enveloping everything in blinding brilliance. Rashid shielded his eyes, heart pounding in his chest like a drum. When the light faded, everything felt different. He looked around, taking in the faces of those he thought he knew. They were all staring at him, eyes wide with realization and fear. "Dad, you must choose," Adam urged, his voice breaking through the silence. "The truth will change everything. Will you fight to protect it, or let it consume you?" In that moment, reality shifted, relationships cracked under pressure, and the world felt unsteady. Rashid's heart raced, uncertainty gnawing at him like a hungry beast. What choice lay before him? What had really been hidden? The shadows around him lengthened, blending into a darkness that felt both familiar and frightening. The desert winds howled, echoing a haunting question. What will he sacrifice to preserve the fragile truth that hung in the balance? Rashid's heart raced as the glowing orb pulsed in Adam's hands. Around them, chaos reigned. The flames crackled like bowstrings snapped taut, and the metallic craft loomed ominously, casting shadows that danced with a life of their own. Adam's urgency hung in the air, heavy and dense, a palpable tension that spiraled like the smoke rising from the fire. "Choose, Dad!" Adam's voice cut through the thundering chaos. "This is about more than just us!" His eyes sparkled with a mix of fear and a fierce determination. Before Rashid could respond, David took a step forward, his expression a mix of disdain and triumph. "You thought you could protect him, Rashid? You're merely a pawn in this game. My game." Rashid felt a wave of anger surge through him. "You're wrong, David. I'm not letting you twist this anymore." He could feel the weight of his choices bearing down upon him, suffocating, almost overwhelming. As the orb flickered brighter, Adam stepped forward, defiance shining in his eyes. "Enough! This isn't just about a bloodline or legacy. It's about truth, Dad. The truth that can free us all." His voice faltered, but his resolve remained steadfast. Suddenly, an explosion erupted from the craft, sending debris flying into the air. Rashid shielded his face, heart drumming in his chest. The world around them faded for a moment, leaving just Adam and the glowing orb. Time stood still as he processed everything: his son's safety, the empire at stake, the haunting shadows of betrayal. "Then let's unleash the truth!" Rashid shouted, determination igniting within him. He reached for the orb, energy sparking between them as they combined their strength. The flames dimmed, not extinguished, but tamed by their united will. David stumbled back, confusion plastered across his face. The figures from the shadows watched, intrigued, as the energy swirled between father and son. Rashid caught a glimpse of the crowd outside, faces drawn tight with fear, hearts racing in unison, watching the unfolding drama. "Together, Adam!" Rashid cried. And they unleashed the energy in a burst of light, radiating truths unspoken, shattering bonds of deception that had entwined their lives. The ground trembled as the light spread, enveloping David in its fierce grip. For a moment, time hung in balance. Then, with a final flash, the remnants of secrets rushed forth, flooding the scene. Gasps echoed as people were illuminated by the truth, the shared histories, the hidden betrayals, the legacy long fragmented beyond recognition. And there stood Rashid and Adam, united, embodiments of resilience amidst the storm. As the light faded, Rashid collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. The chaotic energy dimmed, revealing a moment's tranquility. Adam knelt beside him, their eyes locking, understanding flooding between them. The shadows that once lingered began to recede. In that moment of clarity, Rashid whispered, "Whatever comes next, we face it together." The crowd began to murmur, confusion mingling with awe. The truth had unveiled deeper connections, redefining reality. Rashid's empire stood vulnerable, yet all the more unified by the bond shared with his son. But just as clarity emerged, the shadows twitched at the edges of their vision, ominous and persistent. Raised foundations held the promise of rebuilding. Something deep and transformative lingered in the air. Rashid's gaze shifted to the horizon, where the desert met the sky. Amidst uncertainty, he felt resurrection pulse through him. "Let them see who we truly are," he declared, voice resolute. And just like that, he knew the battle wasn't over, but they would rise to meet it. The future ahead seemed a blend of shadows and light, threaded with doubt and possibility. The question remained, how deep did the truth run? What lay beyond this moment? Now, this is the moment to show your support. You have to subscribe now to our channel, so you don't miss the next chapters in this unraveling saga. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and help us reach more fans. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even a second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this all unfolds. Your support makes a world of difference. Let's keep this story alive.